This happened to me only a few weeks ago, and I am still reeling from it because I do not know whether I can trust my brain anymore. I'm not sure if what happened really happened, and my boyfriend is no help in the matter at all. I will try to make this brief and not ramble on, and hopefully someone can explain to me what I experienced. So, it was late night a couple of weeks ago, and my boyfriend and I were just settling into bed. It must have been 11 p.m. or so. Not ridiculously late, but still pitch black outside. My boyfriend was already fast asleep, as he always is, because he's usually up at around 5 a.m. for his job. I don't start my job until a little later than him, so I'm usually up for a while longer, tossing and turning. I had my window open slightly, and I could feel the cold breeze coming in from it. I was laying down on my back, and my eyes were droopy, and I was ready to just drift off. The wind started to pick up a little bit briefly, and it's making that whining sound against the glass that you can hear when the wind is strong. It only lasts for like 2 seconds and then it stops. I don't want to get up and shut the window because I am really comfy, so I close my eyes. Except, my eyes won't close. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I realized that no matter how hard I tried to close them, they just wouldn't shut. There was no breeze coming from the window anymore. Come to think of it, there was no sound coming from outside at all anymore. Before, I could hear the breeze rattling the window, the shaking of nearby trees, leaves rustling, bushes rustling, and I could also hear the neighbor's dog running around the yard and making noise and sniffing deeply at something that was just all of the ambient sounds of the night. Now it was just completely silent. All I could hear was my boyfriend, who had suddenly started snoring right next to me. This sudden snoring sound startled me, except my body did not move at all. I didn't have any physical reaction. I realized pretty quickly that it was like my body was frozen stiff to the spot, and my eyes were glued open. They would not even blink automatically. It was like they were being held open by something, by force. So I am just lying there. I tried to call for my boyfriend to wake up, but I can't even open up my mouth. There is no sound at all coming from me. I couldn't even hum or make a muffled scream. And then wham, there is this massive flash of light coming from outside of my house, coming from a tree nearby a little while away it looks like. It was being directly beamed at my head, and when it hit me, it felt hot, really, really hot. I could not move or squirm, but my face started to heat up very quickly, and it was uncomfortable to say the least. I could feel the sweat dripping from my forehead after only a few seconds of this light hitting me. Then the light stops, and then I hear a sound coming from outside. It sounds like feet crunching thick grass or brush, but there are not any other accompanying sounds outside that you would expect. It was like someone was trampling grass in a void. I just heard crunch, 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 and then wham. The light is back again, but it's taking up even more of the room now. I forgot to mention, but this light, it had kind of a red hue to it, just ever so slightly. It made me feel like I was in a dark room where you develop photographs. But now it was hitting me, my boyfriend, the entire bed. My boyfriend did not react to it at all. He just kept on snoring away. After much of the same feeling, it goes away again, and I can hear more and more sounds. Again, it sounded like just this noise in isolation, but it sounded like a tapping against the side of the house, followed by something sharp, sinking deep into the wooden exterior of the house. It sounded like it was low to the ground, and then it seemed like the sound itself was scaling the wall. It seemed to stop just below my window, and then I got hit with that light once again. This time it engulfed the entire room, and I could not see anything in my vision because it felt like I was being blinded. All I could see was block red. When it stopped and I could finally see again, I saw a sight that I have not been able to get out of my head since that night, a sight that still haunts my nightmares. All around my bed, I could see faces. I did not count exactly how many. It must have been half a dozen of them or so. All I can see are the heads. I cannot see the bodies whatsoever. I don't remember whether the bodies were covered in the darkness of the room, or if they just weren't there or what. All I could see was that they were essentially 6 floating heads all around my room, and they were right by the foot of the bed, in a kind of semicircle. They were not human heads though. They had some human features, but the heads were much too big and bulbous. They were much thicker at the top and skinnier at the bottom. The eyes were as big as golf balls, and they were pure, shiny black. The skin was this almost translucent grey. It felt like I could partially see through the skin and see little bits of what was beneath it. I think the jaws of these things were what frightened me the most. They were not like human jaws at all. They were hanging loose and were really far down. They were constantly just hanging open, and I could hear these horrible wheezing sounds coming out from them. It was as if someone took a human's jaw and just stretched it down until it became skinnier and unhinged. I could not move. I could not do anything. The most I could do was make my eyes dart around the room, but I could not close them. I wanted nothing more than to just shake my boyfriend awake, but I couldn't. He was still just laying there, snoring. These things did not do all that much at first from what I can remember. They just stayed there and looked around the room, and I think they looked at each other. I could be wrong, but they almost looked as if they were communicating with each other in a way that I could not really perceive, but I can't quite explain how I know in retrospect. It was just a gut feeling I had from the looks and how the heads moved. They genuinely just looked like floating heads with no bodies from what I can remember at this point. After this, there was a big gap in my memory that I don't really know how to explain. For me, after everything I described, there is just this blank space, and then my memory continues directly after that. It's like a jump cut. Time seemed to slow down while they were in the room, but I don't know why my memory only became patchy at specific moments. I remember that after the blank in my memory, the next thing that I remember is my eyes looking to the side, directly at my boyfriend. He is on his back now instead of his side, and he is not snoring anymore. His eyes are not closed. I think he's awake too, but he is not saying anything. All of the heads in front of me, they are all looking at him now instead of at me. He all of a sudden just jolts and sits up in bed. I thought maybe that now he was awake, he might be able to help, but that did not happen. After sitting upright in the bed, he got up to his feet, but it was not natural. He had to keep gripping onto the mattress and the wall to get himself up and steady himself. And at one point, he placed both hands on one of his legs and kind of tried to pull it and drag it for it to start moving before he could walk normally. It looked like he was some kind of a puppet who had just learned to walk but could not remember all of the steps. I could not move or call out to him or try and warn him. I just felt so helpless. He eventually walked all the way over to directly in front of where these heads were, to the one on the far right-hand side. It was like he was in a trance. And then I don't fully know how to explain what happened next. He was standing there, and out of nowhere, I could just see this hand and arm come out of the darkness in the vague direction of where this floating head was. It looked like a floating head, a ball of darkness, and then this arm and hand shot out of where this ball was. I could still not see the rest of its form. These hands were now gripping my boyfriend by the face, both of them, just around his head. The arms of this thing were incredibly long, but had weird patches running down them. The skin was that same translucent grey, but in random patches running along it. The skin looked as if it had shed away and was more of a brownish color underneath, but it wasn't consistent. It was like a bit of brown, a bit of grey, a bit of a different color. The same thing was on the hands, running up the fingers and the knuckles, but in a much smaller area. The skin looked more like leather on the hands than actual skin. There was something on the end of the fingers too. Some kind of a claw-like thing, but not exactly. I don't know how to explain it. It was definitely a point at the end, from what I can remember though. My boyfriend did not react at all as these hands gripped his face super tightly and moved towards his lips and pulled open his mouth. His mouth stayed open, and then this thing it shoved its fingers actually in his throat. It started with just one forefinger being slowly pushed into his mouth and down his throat, but eventually, it seemed like all 4 of its fingers were now down his throat. I could hear my boyfriend making these choking noises, and they sounded horrible, but he still was not reacting consciously. And for whatever reason, this thing, it used the hand rammed down his throat, along with the other hand gripping his face, to forcefully move my boyfriend's head and force him to turn around fully and face in my direction. I could see that my boyfriend's eyes were fully rolled back inside his head, and they were moving rapidly. They were watering too. My boyfriend seemed to be twitching and shaking all over his body, and I think that he had raised skin and goosebumps all over his arms. At this point, I could just barely see the body of this thing, this alien, peeking out of that ball of blackness. I don't even know how to describe how it looked, other than grotesque from what I can remember. The skin was again like leather, with the weird different colored skin patches, but other than that, the body was smooth and featureless, but it was round. It was puffed out at the top and round at the bottom of its body. I could not see much of anything beyond that. This went on for I don't know how long. Like I said, time seemed to slow down and then speed back up again at random points in the night, so I'm not truly aware of how much time passed for everything to happen. It could have been an hour in total for the entire event. It could have been the entire night. I had to watch my boyfriend shake violently, watch this thing sink its fingers deeper down my boyfriend's throat, and hear my boyfriend almost choke to death as he coughed up something. He coughed up mucus and bile, but at one point, he coughed up a ball of something that I could not really see properly. I could not tilt my eyes down far enough to where it landed to get a good look at what it was. After however long went by, I could hear the pitter-patter of tiny feet on wooden flooring. My heart just fucking sank. It was my dog. I knew it could only be my dog. She always prefers to sleep downstairs on the couch because it's comfy, but sometimes she likes to jump on the bed next to us in the middle of the night. My dog got to the doorway of my room. I could just barely see her out of the corner of my eyes, but it hurt to strain and look. And then she started whining. She was a small dog, a tiny one. I saw one of the other things move so quickly. Every time it moved, I swear I could feel the ground shake, and I thought that this thing was going to go through my floor. Quicker than I could even comprehend, I saw this thing lunge down at my dog, and my dog did not move an inch. It dragged my dog slightly, and I could ever so slightly see that this thing was low to the ground, crouched down if I had to guess. And the head of this thing, it had its mouth open and completely over the snout of my dog, but like clamped down, covering it completely. This thing could have fit my dog's entire head in its mouth if it wanted to, but it was just the snout. I heard my dog squeal just before it happened. I don't know how long it did this, but when it finally pulled away from my dog just collapsed onto its side and was whining gently and looked like it could barely breathe. It looked like the poor thing had no strength left whatsoever. And that's the last thing I could remember from that night. It was like 1 second I was staring at this horrifying sight right in front of me, and the next second my room was being lit up by the sun. My window was now closed, and I could finally move again. I felt exhausted, and my eyes felt heavy. It felt like I had not slept at all. I think it was around 11 a.m. now. 12 whole hours had passed, just in the blink of an eye. My boyfriend was sat up next to me with a trash can next to him, and he was throwing up for quite a while. He told me he could not go into work because he felt way too sick. He says he was feeling horrible, said his stomach felt really sore, and like he was having some kind of a spasming in his stomach. He said it felt like he had pulled a muscle in there or something, and that it felt all knotted up and like it was stinging. He told me that he tried to eat a sandwich earlier in the morning and drink a glass of water, but he could not keep it down. The second he swallowed the food, it was coming right back up. I did not know how to broach the subject, but I asked him if he remembered what happened last night. He looked at me so confused. He had no idea what I was talking about. I tried to give him some hints that I saw something scary, but he was clueless and asked me about it. I described everything to him in detail. He looked concerned and tried to comfort me, but he told me it was just a nightmare. He told me that nothing like that happened, and that he definitely would remember if he did. He told me to put it out of my mind, and that my brain was just giving me horrible nightmares and playing tricks on me. He went on a spiel about sleep paralysis and whatnot, and talked down to me like I was a child who didn't know any better. I know what fucking sleep paralysis is. I'm not an idiot. What I felt was 100% real, and I know full well it was real because of everything that came after. I had bruises all over my arms, bright purple and really deep ones. He again tried to tell me that I had just done them to myself in my sleep. Bull fucking shit. He went back to bed at one point and left me to deal with cleaning up his mess. I had to clean out the trash can. I could not stand the smell of his vomit. His vomit was a weird color. It had no food in it at all. It was almost entirely liquid. It looked like it had some blood in it, and was more of a brown than the usual color of bile. But it was like a really dark brown. His boss called him up like half an hour later and was mad at him, and he ended up getting up and going into work anyway. He complained to me about a splitting headache while he was getting ready. He ended up collapsing at work later in the day, and they sent him to the hospital. I think the doctors said he had some kind of deficiency and was apparently suffering from mild dehydration, so they gave him some supplements to help and obviously helped him with fluids. I never got any of the sickness that he did. I have no idea what all of that was about. I wish that was it, but it wasn't. My dog was suffering too. She never got sick, but a couple of days after all of that happened, I took her on a walk. She went up to a bush to pee, and when she cocked her leg up, all of a sudden, her legs just gave way, and she collapses to the floor, and just ends up peeing in a puddle all around her. I had to rush her to an out-of-hours vet, and I don't know the exact cause or everything that went on, because I'm terrible with medical stuff and I never remember that. But her back legs ended up paralyzed. She has to use those wheel things you can buy just to go outside now. It breaks my heart to see her like that. I don't really know what else I can say. I'm horrified. I'm scared to even close my eyes and go to sleep. My boyfriend is on and off with his health. Some days he feels completely fine, and other days he feels just as sick as that first day. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't really have any way to explain it. Normally these things have a perfectly reasonable explanation, but it's like there's just nothing to explain this. In the last couple of days, I have not been able to remember any of my dreams. I usually have pretty vivid ones, and I like to write them down in a little journal and then look back on them and laugh at them and think about just how silly they were. But lately, I have not had any at all, and I've been waking up to pretty heavy nosebleeds most mornings. I will be laying on my back and be woken up by the trickle as it runs down my face and then onto my pillow or the bedsheets. And that's about all I can say. That is all I remember. Can anyone tell me what the hell is going on? I am so scared and I do not know what to do. I don't know what happened to me. I don't even know if it was real. So, this story I'm about to tell is a personal experience. You should probably know ahead of time I'm actually a bit of a skeptic, but this freaked me the hell out, and I still think about it to this day, and I just could not explain it. I used to live in Omega about 5 years ago. The house I was in was actually out in the farmland just outside of town, down 319. I was just renting the place for a while from the owner, and I did not stay there for very long. The reason I left is because I had lived there for about 2 years, and things just were not right. You know how you can walk into a house and it just feels wrong, like the floors are not level or something that you just can't quite put your finger on. It was like that. So anyway, I come home one day and I'm taking my shoes off and something flies past the bedroom door, like real fast, and it was white too. I don't know what the hell it was. I was thinking maybe a rabbit or something got in the house, but then I started seeing this thing all the time, flying past the top of the stairs and through the kitchen while I was in the living room. I got freaked the hell out and I thought I was losing my mind, so I set up a shitload of rat traps and all kinds of poison all over the house. I ended up killing about 4 or 5 rats, but I was still seeing the thing, and the rats and the mice were all brown or grey anyway. So I just started to try and ignore the thing. I thought maybe I was just losing my mind and it was stress related. Then my friend was over one day. We were watching the Super Bowl and eating Cheetos, just chilling out, drinking some beer. Then my friend says, "Hey, when did you get a cat?" I was like, "What are you talking about? I do not have a cat." And he said, "Well, what the hell was that just shot up the stairs?" I kind of realized at that point, maybe I wasn't just seeing some shit, and I told him about what I had been seeing. Needless to say, it freaked him out, and he said that we should just go to the bar or something, because he did not want to be in the house anymore. I didn't blame him, so that's what we did. After that, I told my mom what I've been seeing. She isn't the most devout Christian in the world from a religious standpoint, but she is a firm believer in stuff like good vibes, power through faith, and such, so I figured maybe she might have some insight or something. She told me that I should try burning sage in my house. I thought that was like dorky TV witchcraft type crap, and I asked her why I would bother doing that. She said that in best case scenarios, it's supposed to help calm a house down spiritually, and worst case, it would at least make me feel better if I did not believe her. So I was like, okay, sure, why not? It's not like the rat traps were helping, because I probably had killed all of the rats already. So I went home and burned some sage in the house, yada yada. It didn't really seem to do much, except kinda stink. But I figured, college try it at least. I can't say that the stuff actually helped. I still saw the thing in the house, but it was a little dimmer, maybe. Like, it didn't draw my attention quite as much. I figured this might just be a placebo effect for all I know. I still was not convinced I wasn't just losing my mind to anxiety. I figured this could just be like a self-fulfilling prophecy situation, so I just tried to ignore it and stay out of the house more often. That worked fine until one day. It still really bothers me thinking about it. Let me stress to you, the anxiety I feel right now, just remembering, it's so strong. I'm hoping right now that whatever I saw, I will never have to see ever again. So, I was coming home from a trip to town. I met my buddy at the supermarket and split a 6-pack with him and grabbed a bite to eat. I pulled in the driveway coming home. I still remember how dark it was. It was a little bit past midnight, but it seemed so much darker than it usually was. It must have been new moon and overcast or something, because it was dark outside. So I walk up to the house and open the door. I head through the kitchen and drop my Taco Bell on the counter. I walked through the living room and went and took my shoes off in my room and grabbed my phone charger. That's when shit hit me really hard. I mean, like, you know that feeling you get, like total panic, when something hits you really, really hard mentally? Like you turned a corner and there was a bear in your face type reaction in your body. I don't know what it was, but I remember it being quiet, like way too quiet. It was so quiet, it just made me feel sick. I didn't really know what was up at first, so I just walked back towards the kitchen to get my food. I started losing my shit internally, and then I walked into the living room. I noticed right away what I didn't notice when I came through the living room from the opposite direction. There was something in the corner of the room, just standing there, hunched over, not really moving. It was between my cabinet and the window on the other wall, pretty much in the corner. It was almost a stance you would make when you put your arm on the wall and lean your head onto your arm. I thought it was a person who broke in, so I yelled at it. I basically said, "What the fuck are you doing in my house?" Let me stop right here to explain something to you guys. We have all seen TV shows where people have seen shadows in their house or whatever, and they are like, "It just looked black and the tornado sounded like a train." Let me tell you, this was not a damn shadow. I don't really know what the hell it was, but when I flipped on the light, that corner of the room, all of the light was like it was drained out of that corner, and that thing was just standing there. It was vaguely a human shape, and it definitely had volume to it. It wasn't like some mist or something. If I threw a lamp at the thing, it probably would have hit it, just like it would hit you or me. There was a head, 2 short arms, and I could not make out its legs. The bulbs in the chandelier blew out about 2 seconds after they were turned on, and this thing crawled under the cabinet that was like 5 feet away from it. It did this so fast, I almost did not see it. It just slipped under there like its body collapsed, and it just deflated underneath the cabin. All of this happens in about the span of 3 seconds, but it scared me absolutely shitless. I literally ran like hell out of the house and plowed the door to get the hell out of there. I jumped in my truck and drove an hour to my parents' house. I was so messed up and scared. I was daydreaming out the whole way there, thinking what if it follows me, or what if it was in the truck with me right then. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I could not even breathe for like 10 minutes. I was not able to sleep for weeks afterwards. Eventually, I did go back to the house, but I always found any reason not to stay there. I would bum at my friends' houses or something. I was only there a few hours out of the week, but I noticed things even the short time I was there. My keys moving across the kitchen and such. I just couldn't take it. A few months later, I was able to finally move out. I moved out of town, and as far as I know, no one had seen anything in the house since then. I'm still feeling anxiety writing this. I've never seen anything like that before or since. I still don't know what it was, but I never want to see it ever again. I've seen some people on TV talk about shadow people, but the description that they give never sounds right. I've always tried to find a way to dismiss it in my mind, but there is no way my eyes could ever lie to me that badly. If I was losing my mind, I would rather be put down than have to see some shit like that. That is pretty much it. To this day, I'm still trying to find out what I saw. I don't know if there was a gas leak and I lost my shit or what, but I still cannot explain what happened. I actually talked to a preacher about it once, and he told me it may have been a failed possession or something, but he was Catholic, so I did not really take his word for anything, since I am Methodist, and to me, his kind of views do not really match up with mine. I still get freaked out, you know? Like when it gets super quiet at night and stuff. It reminds me of that night. I don't want it to ever be that quiet ever again. I can't explain how terrifying it was just to feel the silence that I guess that thing caused. I'm not sure if I will sleep well tonight now that I'm thinking about the situation again. The worst thing is, the only way I'll probably ever get closure is if I saw the thing again and found out what it was. But I am sure as hell not doing that. Not in a million years. Okay, so this experience happened to me when I was only 9 years old. I was walking back home from school with some friends. I lived a few blocks away from it. My mom thought it was okay to let me walk alone. She thought it was time I got a little bit of independence, and that with friends I would be absolutely fine. After the first block, we split up, and I start to walk the rest of the way alone. As I am walking, I see a really weird guy with a black and red cape. He must be a magician or something like that. When I pass by him, I hear a whisper right behind me. It sounds like he said, "I'm going to die." I turn around and the creep guy is gone. I start to run back to my house, faster than I've ever run before. After some seconds, I start to feel sick, really sick. The shadows on the street cast from the lights overhead. The shadows, they start to move anywhere I look. They're moving with my eyes. I reach home finally. The weird guy is in the middle of the living room. I shout out for my mom. The weird guy says something else that I could not quite hear, and then I pass out. I wake up on the couch with the worst headache ever, and I am scared as hell. My mom arrives back from the market with lots of bags. She asks me why I was sleeping on the couch. I explain the story, but she does not believe me, and then she grounds me for sleeping on the couch. I started to get a ride home after this. I know it's kind of a lame story and doesn't really have any explanation, but this shit scared me really badly.